Καλημέρα σας. Είμαι στην ευχάριστη θέση, στο πλαίσιο του εορτασμού της ημέρας της ελληνικής γλώσσας, να σας παρουσιάσω τον κύριο Paddy Sammon, πρώην διπλωμάτη Ιρλανδό στην Ελλάδα, με μεγάλη εμπειρία στις διμερείς σχέσεις, ο οποίος επίσης είναι πρόεδρος του Ιρλανδο-Ελληνικού Συνδέσμου, λάτρης της χώρας μας, και ο οποίος θα σας διαβάσει ένα πάρα πολύ όμορφο κείμενο σχετικά με την επίδραση της ελληνικής γλώσσας στον ιρλανδικό πολιτισμό, στις τέχνες και στα γράμματα.
It's a great honor to speak about one of my favorite subjects, Greek language, and this is a language which has been part of my life since the age of 12, and I'm not 12 anymore. Greece and Ireland are very far away geographically, and most people would imagine that the Greek language was notable in Ireland for its absence because it's so far away, but people would be completely wrong. Some Irish people, whether in Ireland or among the Irish diaspora in Europe, have been influenced by works and words in the Greek language over a period of more than 1200 years. Although the Romans conquered Greece in 146 BC and subsequently conquered the Celts in Gaul and Britain, they never got as far as Ireland. The Irish, whose culture was a sophisticated oral one, like that of the Homeric age, had to wait until the arrival of Christianity, together with the Latin language, in the 5th century. First with Bishop Palladius, which is perhaps a Greek name, and then St. Patrick, before they learned of that wonderful invention, writing. Greek speakers were spread all over the Mediterranean, but rarely reached the North Atlantic in person, so any linguistic links were of necessity indirect through Latin. Certainly, Greek speakers rarely reached Ireland in person. However, there was some knowledge of Greek here in Ireland, in remote Donegal, in the most northwesterly part of the smaller of two islands off the northwest coast of Europe. There's a stone cross slab with a very remarkable inscription in Greek from around AD 800. Doxa ke timi patri ke io ke aio pneumati. Glory and honor to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. There is nothing like this anywhere else in northwestern Europe at this time. This was during the golden age of Irish Christianity, coinciding with the dark ages in the western part of the continent, when Irish monks endured what they called white martyrdom. In other words, self-inflicted exile from their native land. One such Irish monk was St. Columba, whose name is ultimately derived from Greek, Golimvos, Golingitis. In modern Greek, Golimbo means I swim. Columba, one of the three patron saints of Ireland and his successors, cultivated learning and brought back Christianity to Britain and Western Europe. They founded great monasteries throughout the west of the continent, which were noted for their libraries and scholarship. The Irish spoke a very difficult Celtic language, which was Indo-European, but not derived from Greek or Latin, but they became experts in teaching Latin. They were also very interested in the Greek words, which they came across in their Latin texts. At that time, writing in Western Europe had been exclusively in Latin. However, among the languages spoken on a daily basis, the vernacular languages, the earliest records and the earliest dictionaries and etymological works in Europe are in Irish, and they explain many Greek words. Greek words came into the Irish language at such an early stage that they are now rarely even recognized as Greek. For example, what appear to be thoroughly Irish words for the sky, unspaid, rain, bláisteach, and the family, winter, are ultimately derived from Greek, sfera, baptisma, and monastiri. It's extraordinary to think that the Irish abandoned their own words for such basic concepts and adapted words ultimately of Greek origin. In doing so, these words had to fit into the Irish sound system with its two complete sets of consonants, despite having only 18 letters to write with. So there were no letters corresponding to zeta, kappa, epsilon, or phi. So some of the words don't look like Greek at all to a Greek or anyone else. We have a word, for example, for a philosopher, philosof, which in Irish looks nothing like philosophos, or the Latin word philosophos. Ireland's most noted philosopher was born around 800 in Ireland. He was the Neoplatonist philosopher Ioannis Scotus Eriugena, and he had first-rate knowledge of Greek. He was the only other person with such a level of Greek in Western Europe at the time, was the librarian at the Vatican. Many Irish forenames, Christian names, are derived from Greek. Katrina, Moiread, Alistair, Stefan, Paul, Ekaterini, Margarita, Alexandros, Stephanos, Pavlos. The last name, that is St. Paul, has a particular importance for the Greek language in Ireland. The oldest copy of the letters of St. Paul, in the oldest extensive book in codex, not scroll form, in the world, are in the Chester Beatty Library here in Dublin. You'll also find there the earliest copy of the Gospels in one book, and of the Apocalypse. These are all from Egypt, written in Greek on papyrus, and they date from the 3rd century AD. They are earlier by a century than the vellum manuscripts, such as the Codex Sinaiticus from St. Catherine's Monastery in Sinai. St. Paul's letters in Latin translation were later studied by Irish monks in Europe, and their interlinear notes, or glosses, written in Old Irish, are some of the earliest examples of that language which survive. All students of Old Irish are familiar with these texts. In more recent centuries, Irish winners of the Nobel Prize for Literature have among their works some wonderful examples of translations from Greek. W.B. Yeats's translations of the Oedipus plays by Sophocles work superbly on the stage. His poems, Byzantium and Sailing to Byzantium, are amongst the most famous in the English language. Uniquely, among the world's major writers of the last century, James Joyce learned modern Greek, although he never visited Greece. And by the way, the literature on James Joyce's writings exceeds that on Shakespeare. We have pages from Joyce's notebooks with his handwriting in Greek. His most famous work, Ulysses, or Odysseus, is based on the framework of Homer's Odyssey, and is also full of ideas based on Joyce's reading of the works of Aristotle. A main character who appears in the opening scene is Stephen Daedalus, two good Greek names. In Sweeney's former pharmacy in Dublin, you too can read Ulysses, or Odysseus, in one of the two wonderful translations into modern Greek. On the last International Greek Language Day, we did just that, with readings also from Homer's Odyssey in the original ancient Greek. Do join in person or online.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beth.